Welcome to the Circuit of Success. I'm your host, Brett Gilliland. Today, I'm really excited. I've got an entrepreneur. I've got an author of 7 books, Mike Michalowicz. How we doing?
I'm doing all right, Brett. Thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. Great to have you. So you're coming just outside of New York City in New Jersey, correct?
Yeah. If you take the Lincoln Tunnel out of Manhattan and you just keep going west for about 20 miles, you'll hit me.
That's your deal.
I'll be sitting in the middle of the road, just sitting there. You'll hit me.
Literally, I will hit you.
Literally.
Do you go to the city much right now with everything going on with COVID?
Sinfully, no. My wife and I used to go in about once a month for dinner or something like that. And the day COVID hit, we're like, we're done with New York for now. I love the city, but it's just, we're going to wait until you can tour around again, hit the restaurants, make it into a real day.
Yeah. It's sad. It seems like a lot of people are moving away from there. It is a great city.
Yeah. Here's what's interesting. So New Jersey, where I am, and maybe this is true for St. Louis too, people are leaving the core of the city and going to all the suburban areas. So the housing demand in New Jersey is skyrocketing, even though we've been the mass exodus state. Everyone's leaving here to go south or west. Yep. In the last year and a half, because of COVID, housing prices have jumped, and we see New York plates all over the place. So yeah, people are still coming out.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, people are like just getting rid of their houses here. Like the day they say I want to sell it, it's 3 or 4 offers.
Yeah, inventory sits for about a day or two, it seems.
Yeah. Well, we could talk about that all day, but you have, like I said, written 7 books. You have been an entrepreneur, like lots of businesses, and we love talking to people like you. I call it the entrepreneur roller coaster, and I'm sure you have lived that roller coaster. But we'll talk about your new book, Get Different, which is things you've learned from a marketing side. But Mike, what's kind of made you the man you are today when you think about your lifetime and you don't just wake up and write 7 books? So what's kind of made you that man?
Yeah. So just the quick stories. I never aspired to be an entrepreneur. You hear the stories of other entrepreneurs where their parents perhaps were entrepreneurial or they had that paper route when they were a kid. None of that. I just wanted to get one job for my entire life. And that became my entrepreneurial moment because after school, couldn't get a job. Not a good one. I worked for a computer company. And my spark into entrepreneurship was actually booze. I went out one night after working this place for about 1.5 years with a colleague. And I was just lamenting working for the boss, who I presume sat in the back room counting money and smoking cigars. Right. And I'm like, I work my ass off for this guy. I'm pushing printers and selling all this crap. I'm the person running this little store. I should be owning the business. And with a few beers in, you're like, I'm a
genius,
this.
Right?
This is the best I've ever had. I started a business next morning, and just kind of ran out of that story. I got married at 23. I had my first son, and I was starting a business for the first time in my life. 3 mouths to feed. I was clueless. And that's how I launched. But in retrospect, it was the greatest thing because fear is a great motivator. Like there is no choice or option for failure. You have to see your way through it. And I struggled. I wasn't good, but I survived. And ultimately became passionate about it and fell in love with entrepreneurship.
Yeah. And so you've done different types of businesses, right? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I was in tech services. The first one was computer system integration. And what it was just setting up computer networks. And it's because I was familiar with. That was acquired by private equity after 8 years. It wasn't a big transaction, but it was substantial. I was like, oh my gosh, like you can make money in this field. My second business is where I kind of hit it. I was in computer crime investigation. And when I opened my business, the Enron trial broke 6 months later, and we got part of the Enron trial. It's called the Nigerian barge trial, specifically Kenneth Lay and those folks, Fast Out, were our clients. We did the defense analysis. This was crazy. I got a call on my phone and they said, hey, we need forensic services for our defense. We want you to engage your services, but we have one problem. We only have about a budget of $50,000. I was like, 50,000, like that's a lot of money. I said, we can work with that, but they didn't finish their sentence. They said, our budget's only $50,000 a day. Their burn was $50,000 a day for defense.
Holy smokes.
And I was like, hold on, let me talk with the team, make sure we can serve you. And I'm sitting there like, I am the team. Yes, we can serve you. It put our business on the map. Revenue jumped. We started getting high profile cases. We were acquired by a Fortune 500 called Robert Half International.
Sure.
And but I think this is the most important part of my story. I thought it was hot shit. I was like, oh my God, I got this all figured out. I got the Midas touch, I was born to be an entrepreneur. Third business, this is when the roller coaster starts diving. I became an angel investor because every entrepreneur is that rule. Sure. Once you have some successes, now you're an angel investor, So I start 10 businesses. They all failed. Actually, I invested in one business. The only success was one in St. Louis, Kirkwood, and the little manufacturer. But these businesses didn't complement each other. I didn't know the angel space whatsoever. I wiped out all my wealth within 2 years. And
Wow.
part of it was the angel investing. Part of it was just fat ego. I wanted to own more stuff to show my success. Honestly, I was a dick. I was just a big dick. I had to show everyone how great I was, and wiped myself out. My wife, my 3 children, I sat down with them and said, I've lost everything. We actually lost our house after I met with my kids 30 days later and hit rock bottom. I never declared bankruptcy or anything like that, but had to start anew. That became an inspiration for me to be an author. What I did was I looked at all these things I believed I knew about entrepreneurship, and they were wrong. Like, that takes money to make money, that sales is everything. Like, all these beliefs I had, I started investigating them and saying, oh my gosh, I don't think these are true. I devoted my life, this is now 15 years ago, to figure out everything I didn't know about entrepreneurship. I got a journal like this thick, and I'm about 15 pages in. I got about 200 more that I got produced books around. So this is going to be my life's endeavor, I suspect.
I love that. So, I mean, one, thanks for sharing the story, right? It's not a lot of people like to say I made it and then I lost it all. That's not fun to talk about. But so what did you learn from that though? Because the circuit of success, we like to talk about success, but I think part of success is also failure. And so when you hear I lost everything and you say somebody that back to you, what was the biggest thing you learned during the dark times?
Well, a couple of things. In reflection on my old businesses, I thought everything was because of my effort. I didn't appreciate luck, and matching luck up with effort to grasp that luck or opportunity. Like the Enron trial, when my company hit it, if Enron didn't happen, that was a defining moment for us. And we were in the right place at the right time to grasp it. So there's no question about it. But like, I didn't make that happen. And if I didn't answer the phone that day, that business wouldn't have come in. It was just a lot of things came into alignment. So I think I was negating luck and thought that was all effort. And the only way I think for myself now to grab luck is to make enough efforts, to try enough times that something hits it.
Yeah.
I'm 7 books in. One of my books has really hit. It's called Profit First. And that book has just hit it. My other books have done okay, but honestly, I thought my other books were actually better. My other books I thought were going to be the big ones. I didn't expect Profit First to do what it's done. And it's a little bit of luck. I put enough effort out there that something matched up to a demand that I didn't even see myself. The other thing though, I'll tell you about the darkest period. One thing I valued is I started to redefine what entrepreneurship is for me. I thought workaholism was a good thing, hustle grind. I think it's total bullshit now. I think it really is about balance, and I think it is achievable. I didn't think it was. And I take that back. I think it is. I think that entrepreneurship is a vehicle for self-expression, it's a platform for enjoyment. And when that stuff comes into alignment, often there's a lot of money that follows behind it, but that's what should be the starting focus, at least for me. And then the last thing I discovered too, is this concept of journaling. Like, journaling is a guy's term for diary. Like having a diary is it's a good thing. So what I did in doing this is it's the cheapest form of therapy. Just anything I didn't understand, I was frustrated with, I was angry about, I just started writing it down. And what would happen is when I journal, every time I would just put down thoughts, it doesn't matter about the thoughts I'm putting out there. What matters is now my mind is clear of thinking of that, and I can start focusing forward. Those were the key lessons I took.
And I believe in journaling as well. I mean, if you could see right over here, I've got, 6 journals full of stuff, and then 2 more in my bag over here. And so I'm a big believer in what I call strategic think time. That's another word for journaling or diary, if you will, right? Like, diary. But what's that process like for you? I mean, is it just whenever it hits you, you sit down with the journal and do it? Do you schedule it? Like, what's that look like?
Yeah, I do some scheduled stuff, but actually not with a journal. It's just whenever I need an outlet. So if I feel some anxiety, I'll let it out. If I have some positive or optimistic thoughts, if that's the right word, or opportunities I see, I write that down too, but that doesn't go in the journal. I have a capture board that anytime something presents itself, I put in this capture board for future consideration. And I'm deliberate about that. Every morning from 6 a.m. till 7 a.m. is my thought and writing time. If I'm not writing, I'm evaluating what I've captured and then converting that into some kind of assimilating in some kind of opportunity or something that's actionable. But the journal, that kind of outlet, it's just when I need it. And haven't needed it recently. but the time will come. Again, it sits there. It's it sits at the top of my home office desk, and it's waiting for me.
Yeah.
Again, I consider therapy. Before, when I didn't have it, I would just get more and more frustrated and angry at myself. It's brought just total clarity to this journal.
Yeah, I love it. So, I mean, and what do you think about when you hear strategic think time? So for me yesterday, I have it on Wednesdays. Usually it's 1 to 3. Sometimes it's 2 to 4, just depends on the day. Right. But for me, when I see it on the calendar, it's already on the calendar. It's already built in there. My team, we built around it. When you hear that, like, what does that say to you when you hear that method?
I freaking love it. So I did research for one of my books called Clockwork, and was trying to figure out why do most entrepreneurs aspire to have a business that runs itself effectively, a cash ATM, yet they're doing all the work themselves. Like, what's that disconnect? And I didn't call it strategic think time, but that's what it was. In fact, in the book, I put, there's a statue dedicated to thinking. It's called The Thinker. There's some naked guy there with his chin on his fist. But there's no statue by Michelangelo called The Doer, like some guy pulling his hair out with a phone, trying to call someone and panic to collect money. Like, the doer doesn't exist. It's the thinker. And I'm like, that it's always been that important. And so I totally believe in it. And I do it. Mine is a little more maybe fluid in regards to, I have certain periods of time where I devote to exercise and relaxation, and the thoughts present themselves. So I don't necessarily tell myself, I got to just think right now.
Yeah.
What I do is I just allow myself to disconnect from work completely. And that's when things start popping up on their own.
Yep. Yeah, I love it. And so to piggyback or to keep going on that, because I think this is important for people, is so I do those same things if I'm exercising or if I'm in meditation or I'm driving down the road to a kid's game and something pops in your mind. What I found is if I can just, hey, Siri, remind me to blah, 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 right? Whatever I'm thinking about. Yeah. I know that if I've got the time built in my calendar, then I'll actually think about it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. I've got a great idea, right? And then it's like, how many great ideas do we have? We have thousands of them that come at us, but yet do we ever slow down enough to actually do something and actually think about it? So then maybe we can take a step, or maybe we toss it, right? Maybe it's a terrible idea now once I spend time with it. But for me, it's been, probably 12 to 15 years of doing that. Some of the best ideas I've had have come from that time because I actually slow down to then speed up.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Actually, I got a little hack that may serve you. So, I started exercising regularly about 7-8 years ago, just consistently. I said that now I'm committing, and I found a way to commit that's effective for me. But one of the things I do is run, and I don't consider myself a runner, but I run because I believe there's some benefits to it. Well, when I want to run, to hop on Siri and go, all right, remember this? No, it doesn't work. I found there's a technique, a mnemonic technique, which is kind of cool. You or I pick an anchor object. For example, it may be we have a little panel next to our garage, which is the garage code. So when I come back from a run, I go to the garage code, punch in the code to get in. That's the mnemonic holding spot. And any thought I have, so say I'm thinking of a new idea on marketing. So like my new book is marketing. So I have a new idea on a story around marketing of how someone wore a costume in public and how it got attention, something like that. What I'll do is I'll picture that garage code system and sitting on top of it, this costume kind of loosely hanging there. Now, when I come back from my run, then I forget about it. When I get back from my run, I look at the garage code because I look at it every single time and say, what's sitting on this? I'm like, oh, there's the costume sitting there. Oh, the costume story. And then I pull out Siri and record it. So it's been a good hack for me.
That's great. Well, it's just a mind trigger, right? For you.
Yeah, it's a mind trigger.
That's right. 4 miles ago, I thought of that.
Yeah. In the past, I would start saying, don't forget the costume story. Don't forget the costume story. And I'm like, what should I forget? And I forgot.
Yeah.
The other thing that's interesting today, I'm taking my first flight in quite a while. I typically fly all the time, but I'm flying out from New Jersey to California. And that has been the best strategic thinking time for me. So it's during those flights where I sit down and I take all this information that I've accumulated and start assimilating what is relevant and what's not, all that stuff I've captured. So I guess I do it, but it's not as effectively planned. I like your strategy actually better, but I do kind of a similar process.
Yeah. So you said the word fear earlier, and I talk about this with tons of business owners and athletes and whoever's on this show. And we talk about the fears that we put in our mind. How many of them actually blow up to the magnitude you thought they would?
Oh, yeah. Like Zero.
Yeah.
I think the only fear that's
Coming
ever
from,
going
sorry to interrupt, but coming from a guy who's lost everything, you're still saying zero.
Oh, that's a good point. Listen, yeah, because you know what, when those things happen, it's a phase on the journey. If that moment didn't happen where I lost everything, had started anew, I mean, we went ground level. Like we lost our cars and stuff. We bought a beat up Dodge Durango that was a rust bucket, and a house was granted to us by neighbors who knew our situation. They were heading to Europe, and they said, we were looking for house sitters. You're house sitters here. You're rent free. Thank God. They were amazing. But that was all part of a journey that now has brought me to the other side. What I realized is if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't have a visceral appreciation for the challenges so many entrepreneurs face. So that is grateful. I think the only real fear that's ever going to happen is the termination of life. There's one day for all of us that it ends, and maybe we don't even have a fear around that. I don't want that to happen anytime soon. So, but that's not a one time in a life event. I think compared to that, there's really not much else to ultimately fear, I guess.
100% agree. 100% agree with that. What, when you think and you hear me say the word success, how do you define that now in your world?
Today, it's way different than it was 20 years ago. So today it's being in flow, having clarity on a life's purpose for me and manifesting it. So you can't see it right here on this wall, but it says to eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. It's a mantra for me now. Is there's this perception that when you're an entrepreneur, you're wildly successful, and there's this reality for way too many of us that we're struggling, but we don't want to admit that we're struggling because that's not a way to persuade others to buy your offering. So this gap is what I call entrepreneurial poverty, and I want to fix that. To me, success is fulfilling that. And 20 years ago, it was all just about money accumulation. Like it was all about wealth. And listen, I like wealth. Like there's nothing I find wrong with it, but I do find that when I come from a standpoint of service, that wealth becomes a vehicle to be of greater service, which actually brings more wealth and starts this upward spiral.
Yeah, it's about impact, right? I mean, if you only focus on that, and I think, all successful entrepreneurs, I mean, I think we'd be lying if we didn't say we didn't focus on that, especially early on. I started as a wealth management advisor at 23 years old. Well, I mean, that, this industry is built around thinking about money. That's what we do. We talk about it all day long with people, right? So
it used to be like a chest pounding contest, though, for me. And I think a lot of other folks, particularly early on.
Absolutely.
I was in an organization called YEO. It's now called EO, Entrepreneurs Organization. Actually, they have a chapter in St. Louis.
Yes, they do.
Yeah. And great members out there. I spent some time with them. But I'll tell you, I go into a chapter meeting at any location. And it was mostly guys, but there was women in the group too. And everyone's like this, like, oh, I surpassed my first mill, first mill. That's baby talk. I'm at 5 million. Oh, I'm at 20 million. Like it was all this top line vanity. And it was a dick waving contest.
Right.
And I was totally into it. I was like, oh my God, look how great I am. And it was demoralizing when you meet someone that was bigger that was more successful. And that became a trap. It was a total vanity metric. In fact, there's that saying that circulates around the EO network, revenue's vanity, profit sanity. And after losing everything, I had this wake up call. Now, none of us should be saying, how big is your business? We all should be saying, how healthy is your business? Like the win is health, business health, mental health, all that stuff. I'm far more impressed by a business that does $500,000 and that business owner is taking home $200,000 or $300,000 and living a life they dream, as opposed to someone's making 10 million and they have lawn furniture in their house because they can't afford to live. It's all about.
More importantly, their family hates them.
And their family. Oh God, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. You could always make more money, but are you going to be there for your kid's game? Are you going to be there at dinner time? And those are the things that I know for you that are important for me as well, that people listen to this show. That's what's important to them. And I think that's what we try to pull out of successful people every single week on the show, is just trying to find those little things that make you successful. So on that, if I had a camera crew following you around and they're like, all right, Mike, we're going to follow you sun up to sundown every day for a week. What are the no miss items that you're going to find, or we're going to find that you do every single day without fail? Business, professional, everything.
Yeah. So you see me every day get up at 5:30 naturally, between 5:30, 5:40. I never use an alarm unless I have a specific obligation very early, because I go to bed. This is crazy. They'll see me go to bed at 8:00 every night. Not turn the lights out, but I'm in my bed 8:00, lights out, absolutely by 9 the latest. I'm big into sleep.
And do you have children?
Yeah, but they're all adult children now.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah, so it's doable, right?
Right. Yeah.
20 years,
Yeah.
15 years ago now.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. The second thing is you'll see at 6 a.m. till 7 a.m. every morning, I am writing, and I'm doing this with other authors. I think that's one powerful tool maybe you can use as you write your book, is doing writing collectively with other people is highly motivating for me. I don't miss it. And maybe I produce 800 to 1,000 words a day, but 1,000 words a day times 250, I only do in weekdays, days a year. That's 3 books effectively. Now, a lot of stuff is written for garbage, but that's how much I'm producing. And that's what's called off season. In season, I start doing about 4,000 or 5,000 words a day, which actually I start my next season today. I'm kicking off a new book for my publisher. And then you'll see me from 6 to 7, 7 to 8, always work out every 5 days a week, every single time, track it with my iWatch. And then, and then you'll see me at a huddle every morning at 9 o'clock till 9:30. I have 2 huddles that I participate in for companies. And then you'll see me kind of doing the business day. The business day, generally, I only do 2 things. I'm the spokesperson for our business for the books and stuff. So I speak a lot. We have a president for our company, so I don't run our operations, but I also write books. So I speak and write, and that's the 2 things I do. And then you'll see me at home with having dinner with my family at 5:30 or 6 o'clock, pretty much every night when I'm not traveling. And then weekends, spend time with my best friend, which is my wife. So
yeah, that's awesome. And what are your eating habits? You doing a good job with that?
Not this morning. I had Taylor ham, egg, and cheese, a New Jersey classic. It is awesome. Classic. Yeah, I do pretty well. I'm an oatmeal addict, which maybe actually with the word addict in there, maybe that's not good, but I'd say 4 or 5 times a week, I'm firing down oatmeal.
Well, there's worse things to be an addict on than
yeah,
oatmeal,
totally.
Right?
Totally. I don't drink much. I'll tell you, Friday night, I like to make myself an old fashioned, fire one down, have a nice beer on the weekend, but during the week I don't drink. So yeah.
What kind of cherries you use in your old fashioned?
Oh, Luxardos, dude. Are you kidding me? Luxardos, maraschinos. You got to use the best.
Is there any other kind of cherry for an old fashioned?
No, I actually got a 3-pack of their things that came in from Amazon, which shame on Amazon, the packaging, they wrapped it in so much plastic, to cushion it. I'm not going to buy it from Amazon anymore. I got to find a local store that sells these things.
Yeah. And what's the bourbon? Where are you going?
So Woodford is a simple go-to, but Whistle Pig, I don't use, like, some people are like, oh, you gotta use Old Pappy. That's great if you're doing straight bourbon, but for a mixed drink, Woodford, there's a bourbon here in New York called New York Baby Bourbon, which actually is my favorite. It has a hint of almond in it. Huh. But my wife and I have a rule because the drink is dangerously good. So my wife and I now have a rule. We call it the one and done. Like, it's so easy to do 2. And then we said, well, maybe it's 2 and through. And then maybe 3 represents me. Oh, no, it's one and done.
One and done. Yeah, because 2, 3 leads to bad things. It's just
by 3, it's like, this is amazing.
Right.
No
7 more cherries. Well, we could talk about that all day as well. So when you think about your failures and your successes and all those things, what would you say is if I'm driving down the road or exercising today, I'm listening to this. If I could focus on one thing, whether that's marketing, whether that's believing in yourself, whatever it is, right? If you have that one constant theme in your world, what is that for you?
I think the most common recurring theme for me and for what I hear from entrepreneurs is actually profitability. I think that's why that Profit First is such a popular book. Yeah. So many entrepreneurs are trying to sell their way to profit, hoping that it'll be an event. And I'm saying that profit is not an event. Profit is a habit. It's not about selling more. It's about extracting profit from what you have. I think that's a fundamental need for every entrepreneur. It wasn't for me. Now, 12 or 13 years ago is when I implemented it. I've had, we counted as 51 or 52 consecutive quarters of profit distributions. And it's, listen, the first one was nothing. It was like $8. Today it's more than $8. Yeah, it still counts though, but it's grown and grown and grown. And it's been life altering for me and for entrepreneurs that do it. And I think once you achieve something like that, you start realizing there's so many more things you can achieve through your business.
And would you say that, the word hubris, right? When you hear that, arrogance, whatever you want to call it, would you say that that's, again, not to keep talking about these failures and kicking you when you're down, but when you learn from those, would you say that's a big learning you have for now, that you just continue to have these quarter after quarter after quarter of growth?
Huge. Yeah, that hubris. Well, I just became a dick. That's
Right.
the best way I can find it. Like
Right.
the best word I can find for
You
it.
connect with that more than hubris, right? So he's like, what the hell does that
Totally,
mean?
a total dick.
Yeah.
Like and it wasn't like, I don't think I was rude, but I must have been acting that way outwardly. I do know, because the inward conversation was like, oh, I'm better than you. And I'd walk down the street, I'm better than you. I wouldn't say it out loud, but in my head, I'm better than everyone. That's the definition of a dick. I even had the dick trophy, which was a Dodge Viper. Like that's clearly a dick. Right. Anyone has a Dodge Viper, I'm not trying to bust on them. I got rid of my Viper. I did enjoy the car, but
it'd be awkward if I had a Dodge Viper, wouldn't it?
Yeah. So, but today I consider, this is funny, but now I'm dickless, which sometimes actually when my wife's pissed at me, that's the exact word she uses.
Yeah.
And listen, there's still ego. There's still this compulsion to aspire and compete and to win. But I do have this new perspective. That's not about defeating. It's not about stepping on others to step up. It's about lifting ourselves together. And I really do feel that. I pray, and I think it was divine intervention that I had that collapse, that I never get that ego back and think I'm better than anyone else. We're all contributors, and I'm just a contributor.
Yeah, love it. So our firm, Visionary Wealth Advisors, that's my day job, right? That's what we do. We get to impact people. We get to talk about their goals or dreams or aspirations and help them achieve that. And so our mission is to help people achieve a future greater than their past. So when you hear that, a future greater than your past, what comes to mind for you?
For me, it goes back to life purpose, eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. There's a statistic came out that really, to me, was shocking. US Bank did a study. This is quite a few years back. They identified, first it started in the US, then it became a global study. There's 300 million small businesses, as defined by the SBA. That's a company that does $25 million in revenue or less. That's my business. That's a lot of business. And of these companies, 83% are in check-to-check survival. They're in a cash problem.
Wow.
And so I hope to leave the world where maybe we can flip that. Maybe 83% of businesses are profitable. Maybe the few struggle for whatever reason. But the fact that the majority struggle, even though that's what we're trying to find is profitability, I'm not going to stand for that. So I'm doing everything to flip those numbers.
That's crazy. 83%.
Everyone. Yeah. And it's funny. You go into a room, we're talking about EO. That means you go into that room in EO and you say, hey, how's everyone's business going? Everyone will be like, oh, it's great. We're crushing it. Right. Actually, almost everyone in there is struggling, that they're in a check-to-check survival. They don't have enough money to pay rent or payroll. And so they'll have to skip something. And it's usually themselves. The owner's like, I can't pay myself again, or not pay myself appropriately. It's sad. There's so many businesses that struggle, yet it's hard to admit that, because if you say you're struggling, who wants to do business with you?
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. That's where the transparency and vulnerability comes in, and building a deeper relationship, right?
Yeah, totally. And I would even take it a step further. Our clients want us to be profitable, because we're providing something of value to their life. An extreme example of this, but I think it drives it home, is like a neurosurgeon, a brain surgeon. If I needed brain surgery and I went to my brain surgeon and she says, hey, we're about to start the surgery, but I got to tell you, I am struggling. I have no money. I am desperate. Sure. I really we got to haul ass on this one. I'm like, no, thank you. We'll skip out. I'll find someone else. We would never want our brain surgeon feeling that way, because we want their undivided attention. We want their surgical expertise. But that's true for every provider. I don't want my wealth manager saying, I'm really struggling here. Yeah. No, I want you caring for my money. Yeah. Listen, I buy a gumball at a gumball machine. I want it to be a damn good gumball. I don't want the gumball guy saying, you know what, we're doing cheap plastic gumballs because I can't afford the real thing. Yeah. It doesn't matter what you're offering. The client wants to be treated as the number one client. And the only way to do that is by being sustainably profitable. So your clients do want you to be profitable.
That's right. Yeah. It's funny. I call it big hat, no cattle. And, right. Texas. And so it's like, especially in our world, right? You don't want to, I'm totally, I have nice things. I have a nice home. I drive a nice car. Like those things, I like those things. Right. But I don't want to have the big hat and no cattle, especially in the industry that we're in. And we're lucky with all of our advisors are successful, that they can sit down with people and have conversations and know they're not one deep breath away from, losing their house.
Yeah.
And that's important. And you're right, man. People, you don't want to have the brain surgeon that's not doing well mentally, physically, financially, anything.
Yeah, I think one of the traps for me was I wanted good stuff in the past because I thought it meant something to other people. Like it was a way to show success. Today, I want good things because of the good experience, the ability to share those things, to bring joy out of it. And even though it could be the same thing, the framing around, at least for me, has changed significantly.
So talk to us about this new book, Get Different. I know this is about some lessons you've learned in the marketing world, which is critically important. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, so I'm a believer in this thing called Occam's razor. This is the concept put that when something is at its most simple form, it's usually the most accurate and most successful. So as an example with Profit First, the lesson of that book is when revenue comes into your firm, immediately take your profit first, hence Profit First, hide that money from your business. And now you're forcing profitability into your business and it changes everything. So it's a really simple rule. Well, I applied Occam's razor to marketing. And what I realized is most marketing goes unnoticed because it's like most marketing. You know, next time you get junk mail, look how quickly you rifle through that. It's you can tell and distinguish what's garbage and what's valuable to you like in an instant. So how do we make our marketing get noticed? How do we make it compel? Meaning that when someone looks at it and notices that they engage with it, and how do we have it call action, for them to do something? So Get Different is based upon what I call the DAD framework. Does it differentiate? Does it attract? Does it direct? And if you have any marketing piece that you look at, of your own or any of your competitions or anything around you, you simply ask yourself, it's kind of cheesy, but does DAD approve? It's actually kind of creepy in some scenarios, but does DAD approve? And if it differentiates, it attracts, and it directs, that's a successful marketing piece. If it fails any one of those three tests, it's not going to work. That's what the book's about.
And what was the last D? Differentiates, attracts,
direct. Tell them to do something. You see these great like Super Bowl ads, for example. They're different. They're funny. That means they're attractive. They're engaging. And at the end, it's like, what? There's no specific call to action. Sign up for our email list. So there's no way for that ad now to engage you. Could you imagine a Super Bowl ad says, before you stop watching this commercial, simply go to this page and give us your email or send us a text with your email because we got something more for you. They could get hundreds of thousands of engaged audience members or prospects now. But many of these ads just kind of fall flat. It's like, oh, do you remember that funny ad with that guy? I don't know who it was. That's not perfect.
What they do at the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So where do our listeners find more of Mike? Where do we look you up, man?
Okay. So I'm hopefully this is a little bit of a dad technique here. Here's where you don't go. Don't go to MikeMichalowicz.com because no one can spell it. Go to Mike Motorbike. That's my nickname from high school. Even though I've never had a motorcycle. It's kind of weird. MikeMotorbike.com. It rhymes. And on there, I think you will find the most different author website you've ever seen. You'll have fun experiencing it. And I do have some free tools for you, including all my books. You can get chapters from all my books for free and start exploring that if that's what you want. MikeMotorbike.com.
Love it. Good follow on Instagram too.
Yeah, right. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, we'll put all this in the show notes, Mike. And last question for you. I always love this question, but if I give you $10 million and you can't, if you have any debts or you have normal investments you want to do, you can't do that. Okay. We got to go out and have some fun or make an impact. What are you doing with the $10 million check you get today?
I would probably launch an incubator. Yeah. So I'd probably get a facility to incubate small businesses. That would be a lot of fun. Plus I would take $100,000. We'd have a pretty kick-ass party too with some old fashions.
With a bunch of old fashions with the best cherries in town, right?
Damn straight.
I love though is talking to people it's when I first thought of that question years ago, I thought, well, maybe they'll talk about this great vacation spot and we'll talk about whatever. And it is amazing that none of us talk about, you didn't go buy that beach house. You're literally making an impact and an incubator where new businesses, young businesses can come learn from each other, invest in each other, and grow up and get out, right? And go be
successful. I guess that to me this feels so compelling. It feels so much of service, but honestly, it's the root of joy. Like just to see businesses grow. I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, Mike, it's been awesome having you on the Circuit of Success, man. Really enjoyed the time. Right. And every week we bring you the best tips and tools to help you and your family and your business along the journey of life. So tune in every week. If you can hit subscribe, whether it's on YouTube or on iTunes, we would greatly appreciate that. That allows us to make a bigger impact and get guys like Mike on the show who can give a great message. So Mike, thanks a lot for being here, and we really appreciate the time.
Thank you, brother.